Welcome to Double Fries No Slaw. It is August 1st. Richie, we're just about to hit 1 year on our 1 year anniversary coming up in a couple of days. Stay tuned for a possible pop-up episode and celebrate 1 year with your Double Fries No Slaw gang. But let's go first things first. Myself, CJ Pittenger, Richie Barnes, back with you guys for another week. Haven't missed a week. We made it a whole year and didn't miss a week. Richie, how are you doing this evening?
I'm doing much better than last week, TJ. My bank account's a little worse off. We had to replace our entire AC unit, but I'm nice and cool and comfortable in my house. I'm not sweating, dreading doing this. I'm excited to, just talk Florida State with you, man.
I had to replace my AC a couple of months ago. You replaced yours, so Harlan, just get ready, man. Something's coming. I know you guys are buying a house, but just you're next, bro. Like, it's not a lot of fun. Yeah, but at least we're both cool now. At least our ACs both work really, really well. How was your weekend, man? Would you do anything fun or what you got going on?
Yeah, it's, just a nice, relaxing weekend. We're still just doing a lot of time working on the house. So didn't get out of the house really all weekend outside of a trip to Publix. But nice, relaxing weekend, kind of like I wanted. Got a very busy upcoming month to include, Tallahassee, going to St. Augustine to see my sister next weekend. Seems like every weekend I have a fantasy football draft that we're hosting it in Orlando, where all the guys come from pretty much all over the Southeast, just hang out for the weekend together. So this was probably my last relaxing weekend for a while. So I'm enjoying it. How about you, man?
We went to Orlando. We were in your neck of the woods for the weekend. Actually, we were really close to you. We were right near SeaWorld at a resort over there. My dad took us all the kids. So my sister, my two stepsisters, all the grandkids, obviously my family, over for the weekend, and we hung out a couple of days by the pool. We surprised my daughter this afternoon on the way home. We checked real quick to see if there were any reservations for Chef Mickey's. And so we went by there and spent way too much money on breakfast.
Those character breakfast. Woof.
Oh, they're brutal. Fortunately, the kids eat free, but still it was a lot just for my wife and I. But they had a blast, and she had no clue it was coming. It was a surprise, so it was awesome.
Yeah, this, CJ. My wife was in entertainment at Disney. She did Cinderella for a while, then went into the resort management side. And those waiters at Chef Mickey's or any of these, character breakfasts, they're clearing $100K a year, the vast majority of them. So I'm sure they appreciate you spending your money there. And to be fair, they work extremely hard and have, the highest of standards of any waiter, really. So it's well-deserved.
Yeah, the lady that we had, I'm biased, but I have the cutest kids of all time. The lady that we have was just like, she was a little bit older. She was just so sweet to our kids. Every time she walked by Bryant, which is my son, she was just like, man, I know you guys are here to see these characters, but he's the absolute star of the show. Like, she was so sweet. She's like, I just want to take him home with us. And so anyway, my wife said, when I retire, let's just move to Orlando so that I can just watch the excitement on kids' faces as these characters come around. Like, every time Mickey walked by, it wasn't like, oh, that's Mickey again. It was like, oh, Mickey, and my kids are standing up waving. And so, yeah, it's worth every dime. And then there's a lot of them that went into paying for that, but it's worth it. So, but yeah, a good weekend for sure. Like you said, we've got a bunch of busy weekends coming up before football season. The football season gets here and things kind of get crazy. So Double Fries No Slaw brought to you by Guthrie's in Tallahassee. You can visit both their locations at 1818 West Tennessee Street and 2550 North Monroe. We picked a winner a couple of weeks ago for a Guthrie's, try and get this thing right, Guthrie's Yeti cooler. Yeah. We've got more giveaways coming up with them. I'm expecting something in the mail from them this week, and we can kind of go into a few more giveaways. So check them out. Obviously, if you're in Tallahassee, get your box. Double Fries No Slaw. We told you guys last week about the Seminole experience. We'll shout them out real quick, and then we'll get on with the show. But if you are looking for a way to support FSU and you've already become a booster, you've already given of your money there, check out Seminole Experience. They do a great job. They have different events coming up, whether that be tailgates like ours are like the ones that we're going to have for the Notre Dame game, partnered up with the Tailgate guys. They can accommodate anything from groups to 10 to 1,000. They take care of everything for you. They've got stadium tours that you can go in and book. We're going to do that when we're up in Tallahassee, and I'm excited for it. I'm working on all the details for it now. It's a 90-minute walking tour through the historical sites such as Dick Hauser, Joanne Graff Field, the Dunlap Indoor Practice Facility, of course, Doak Campbell as well. Seminole boosters do get a 50% discount on that ticket, but go to SeminoleExperience.com, check them out. Obviously, if you haven't signed up to be a booster, do that first, and then you can kind of get a little bit more in-depth with SeminoleExperience.com. Richie, we got a bunch of news. I'll get done with the ads and plug in our weekends and everything else like that, but we will start at the very top with a little bit of basketball talk. We'll go into some FSU recruiting that we chatted about with Zach Blostein here a little bit. Blostein, he actually corrected me on that last week. Blostein that we had last week, but we had some big basketball news. You're the basketball guy here. I mean, we all like it, but I'll let you kind of announce this.
Yeah, so a very productive draft for Florida State, not just at the top, but obviously the star of the night was Scotty Barnes. Most people had him mocked going 5th to Orlando, which, I'm a huge Magic fan, and I'm kind of happy it didn't happen. I don't think this is a great organization right now for him. I think it could have really hindered his career early on, but I think Toronto's a phenomenal fit. A lot of people were shocked. They thought Jalen Suggs was definitely going to be their guy, which as a Magic fan, I'm happy that he fell to us because he was one of the best players in all of college last year over at Gonzaga. But yeah, Scotty Barnes, 4th overall. He played a little bit of 6th man this year, so it's crazy to think that 2 years in a row, Coach Hamilton has had his 6th man go number 4 in the NBA draft. Last year, Patrick Williams, obviously, to Chicago, and then he also had another lottery pick last year, Devin Vassell, to the Spurs. So 3 lottery picks in the past 2 years. I mean, that's just wild. Raekwon Gray and Balsa Koprivica also got drafted. Raekwon, I felt pretty good about. I wasn't sure about Balsa because there was a lot of chatter he would be perfectly happy going overseas and playing professionally in Europe, but he'll get a shot with the Pistons. Just overall a great job. And Raekwon Gray to the Brooklyn Nets, so he's joining a super team out there. I think great landing spots for all of them, and just exciting. I'm not going to lie and say I stayed up for the second round, but I was really happy. I woke up the next morning and saw both Balsa and Raekwon both got drafted, and hopefully MJ gets a shot somewhere. We see undrafted free agents typically get a chance, so hopefully MJ Walker gets his chance as well. But a great night for Florida State basketball, and it's only going to help Hamilton in his already outstanding recruiting.
Yeah, no, it's super exciting, and like I said, I mean, we have. I mean, I don't know that we've even done enough justice, but we have raved and raved and raved and raved about how great the program is that Coach Hamilton has put together. And then, like I said, from the recruiting to the results on the court, the domination over rivals, the deep runs into the ACC and the NCAA tournament, and then the draft lottery picks that he's able to put into the year after year. I mean, even going back, I mean, this is going on for a while, talking about
go back to John Isaac,
it's
2017,
Isaac and Bacon and like, it's Easily. It's just unreal what Hamilton's doing. And so, I know it's football season in just 35 days, but I'm excited for basketball season to roll back around too, because that program is fantastic and one of the best run on campus.
Real quick before we move on from that, definitely want to give all 3 of those guys, as well as MJ, even though he didn't get drafted, give them their shine. But one of the coolest things I saw, I followed Drake on Instagram, and the morning after the draft, I'm just going through my stories, and he has a picture of Scotty Barnes, and he tags him. He said, "Hey, let's get to work." So really cool when one of the most famous rappers in the entire world is shouting you out on your 20th birthday, because he turned 20 the day after the draft.
Yeah, no, it's like we talked to Matt Nelson right before he got drafted. We released the episode right after. No. Well, I can't remember. No, we released it right
before he got drafted.
Yeah. Asked him what it was going to feel like and stuff. And like I said, I don't even know how you put that into words. But if you're Scotty, I mean, you knew you were going to get drafted this year.
Yeah.
Minus anything kind of crazy happening. But I don't know if you're sitting there thinking like, I wonder if Drake tweets me tonight. Obviously a neat moment for him for sure. Hey, on Tuesday or was it Monday? Maybe Monday, we dropped a recruiting only episode with Zach Blostein of Noles 247. We spoke about a ton of the high profile commits that were on campus and committed to FSU last week for the what was it called? Seminole Madness, or what was the
Seminole
what was the
Showcase.
Seminole Showcase? Yeah, I'm mixing March Madness and everything else. Seminole Showcase. 3-star defense tackle Daniel Lyons committed. 3-star offense tackle Dusty Richardson committed. We talked to Zach about both of those players. We also chatted about Marvin Jones Jr., who was still in the midst of a visit. That wrapped up on Wednesday, and Noles 247 has all the details on that. Zach previewed that and said that they would have the info on it once it was all kind of done. We talked about 4-star offensive tackle Elijah Pritchett, what Florida State needed to do there, going up against Alabama and Georgia. Obviously, a couple of massive teams to go up against for anybody. Yeah. But, go check out Noles 247 for a full recap. Go check out our podcast that dropped on Monday, whether you're listening to this on iTunes, Spotify, Stitcher, you're watching it on YouTube, Facebook, Periscope, or Twitter now. Periscope doesn't really exist anymore. But wherever you're watching it, go back a few days and find Monday's episode with Zach. Really good stuff there. And then a little bit more recruiting news. Sam McCall, 5-star committed to FSU, took a visit to UF over the weekend. A lot of chatter that he may or may not flip, that the flip watch might be on. He released a "I'm not flipping" graphic. I think the exact words were, "Nah, for now I'm sticking with FSU," or not for now. I think it said just, "Nah, I'm going to stick with FSU." So cool to see him committed. I've never seen a reinforcement graphic, but I mean, these kids like putting stuff out at any point that they can. And so it was neat to see him say like, "Nah, this is what I'm doing. This is where I'm shutting it down." And so glad that he's still in the fold. So on Sam McCall, Richie, I know this is tough to predict this early, but like we would say Travis Hunter is like in like an 0-12 season is not.
Did you see his tweet today, Travis Hunter?
What did he say? No, I didn't. I've been driving back. I've been at character breakfast, bro. Like I
don't know who it was. I'm assuming a rival fan tweeted something like $100. Travis Hunter won't sign with Florida State.
Oh, I'll take that bet.
Yeah, a lot of people started quoting it. So I guess Travis Hunter saw it and he says, "Yeah, I'll take that bet." So Travis Hunter, I think, is the definition of locked in. Like he's on Derwin James level, who got a Florida State tattoo as a high school freshman. 0-12. I mean, he might want to think about things, but I don't see it. He's locked in. I was worried about him about December or so, but these past few months he's made it clear he is going to be at Florida State. Sam McCall, different story. We're the second school he's been committed to, so I love that he did come out and say, "Hey, I'm still all Florida State." But at the same time, you never know with a guy like that how the season goes could play a role in him choosing to elsewhere. But I'd feel about a 6.5, 7 that he will sign with Florida State.
60-70%. So who he reminds me of is Akeem Dent, where they predicted Akeem Dent's entire, and I don't follow recruiting close enough, so I hope somebody is watching or listening to this that can correct me. But he's nothing like that kid, whatever. Reminds me of Akeem Dent, where the entire process he's not commit. He's going to decommit. He's going somewhere else. He's going to Florida. He's going to Miami. Blah 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 blah. And then at the very end of it, it was, he's not going to sign, and he signed, he's not. Anyway, he ended up enrolling and was at FSU.
Well, so, a lot of parallels there too as well, because Akeem Dent, remember, he was originally committed to Miami, one of our rivals.
Yep.
Backed off that, committed to Florida State. Everyone said, he may not sign. And like you mentioned, another one, Asante Samuel Jr. is a guy that everyone thought was going to Miami, committed to Florida State. He said he wasn't going to sign early, and then on the last day of early signing period, he signs, for Florida State. So it's very similar to those two. Something about these defensive backs, South Florida defensive backs. I know he's in Georgia now, but he's originally from South Florida. So that's what you get with them if you follow this for long enough.
So we'll see. I mean, obviously, the better our season goes, the better our record is, the better all of those things kind of go down, the better chance we have. We'll get into a record prediction episode soon, 5 weeks till kickoff. But I think it'd be pretty special for FSU to land 2 5-stars. It probably means some things went down well in the field. But as of now, McCall staying committed to FSU. Hey, we did a draft last week. We released a draft last week and put out a couple of graphics on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook of our teams And there was some backlash over that. Some pretty funny backlash. There was some deserved backlash, I would say. Some things that we laughed at when they happened. We laughed at when they happened on the show. I think my favorite kind of backlash was when people would say, you could tell these guys were born, nobody from before the 90s. And, I'll correct that and say there were like 2 or 3 guys could pick, Bolitnikoff and Sanders and a few different guys, Simmons. And there were some guys picked before the 90s. Yeah. But yes, I mean, everybody doing the draft was born in the early 90s or just before that, maybe a couple of years before. No one here. I think, of the people picking, I think Brian and do you remember the 93 championship? Like I was 3 years old. Like I don't remember.
No, I was born in 88. And, it's funny. I purposely tried to pick guys that I personally remember watching. I think I took Bolitnikoff, but he was a Super Bowl MVP.
It's Bolitnikoff.
Bolitnikoff. Okay.
Another R in his name. I'm going to come to them. Kill you.
But again, he was obviously before our time, but he's also a Super Bowl MVP. Clearly, you can't go wrong when you have a chance to draft someone like that. But yeah, there were some other guys I considered, like from the 80s and even before then. But I tried to stick mainly with the guys that I remember watching playing, during my fanhood as Florida State. That goes all the way back. Like you, TJ, I don't remember much of that 93 team other than I know a lot now, but in real time, I didn't know anything. It wasn't until about 95, 96, I really got into Florida State football.
Like I started remembering around like 97, 98, 99. I mean, I definitely remember the championship against Virginia Tech. I remember that. I remember beating Florida that year. But yeah, I know when I was 3
I
years
remember
old,
crying the year before after we lost to Tennessee, and my dad just looked at me. He's like, "Don't worry, they'll get back next year, and maybe they'll win it." And little did I know that happened, and then they'd get back the following year. How spoiled were we?
Oh, so much. I mean, I've talked about this on different shows and stuff like that, but the Noles went to 3 straight there. In 2000, the Lakers won 3 straight. They finished their streak, and the Bucks won a Super Bowl in 2002, 2003 season, and the Lightning went in 2004. And I was just like, and the Lakers went back in 2004, right? Like they lost to the Pistons, but I was just like, my teams compete for titles every year. And then it wasn't again until like 2009, the Lakers finally won again. But that was like the best little, as a 10-year-old, man, that really set me up for failure. That little 3 or 4 year run that my teams went on. Because it felt like we were never losing again.
Yeah. But I loved the engagement we saw on social media from our draft teams, even when it was negative comments, positive. Like it was funny watching people debate. I personally, I think I said Trey had the best offense. I thought I had the best defense just because my defensive front was so stout. But that's the great thing about Florida State. You can look at all these teams and say, even the bad ones are pretty good. And there's not a lot of colleges that have been around for as little time as Florida State has in comparison to, the Floridas, Ohio States, USC's, Michigan's, Texas that have been playing football forever. For Florida State to have that much star power, it was a lot of fun. And if you haven't heard it, I definitely suggest going back and listening because it was a lot of fun. We had Trey Rowland in there. He's always a great time on the podcast. So a lot of fun with that, man.
Yeah, no, it was a fantastic time. A lot of good jokes in there. Trey was hilarious. Man, there was really, really funny stuff in those 2 episodes. They're quick. I believe the offensive one is like 45 minutes, and then the defensive one, and where we all vote on each other's teams, and we kind of give you who we think won is maybe another 35, 40 minutes. So they're both pretty quick. If you listen to them sped up, you can get through them, and they're pretty funny. It was also kind of like off the cuff. Like I listed all the kind of players and stuff like that. I mean, there were people that I left off lists that – these guys were upset about, but it all kind of just like happened within like 2 hours. And we just got off a podcast before we started recording it. And so it's not like we were doing a lot of planning. You're kind of like you're on the clock and you're trying to make it move along pretty quickly and not like take 5 minutes. That's what's funny is you get this reaction from, keep this Chief 75362 with obviously the old logo is his Avi. Telling you that you must have been born in the 90s and this, that, and the other. And it's easy to, be off the draft later and have those complaints. But when you're in the middle of the draft and you're just like, man, I don't want to hold these guys up and look at every single name on here. I need a D end. Okay, this guy, Burns.
And like you said, we essentially did 3 full podcasts in one night. And I don't know about you, TJ, but my wife was not happy that night.
She kept texting me and saying, like, are you almost done? Are you almost done? Because we like fed the kids dinner that night, and then we hadn't cleaned up the kitchen yet because it was just time to start recording. And so like I had to clean up the kitchen by myself at like 10:30 at night. Like we were gonna start a movie that night, and none of it happened. But the funniest was, okay, so we got a lot of backlash there. The best to me was the guy that said, what the heck's wrong with Ed's draft? Did he start watching football in 2010?
I was like, yes, he did.
And that's like when like Ed didn't grow up. Like Ed is kind of the unique from all of us. Like he didn't grow up watching FSU football like all of us did. When he enrolled at Florida State, he became an FSU fan. Now he's been an avid fan since then. I doubt he's missed. I've probably missed more games between 2010 and now than he has, at least watching them. I definitely know he's attended more games than me between then because he went to all of them in school. But Ed did just become a fan. So the guy was like, oh, well, I guess that makes sense. Brian put out a couple of extra ones, kind of the old man draft of the leftovers that we had done. And people were happy with those. Harlan got a lot of Instagram votes. He was the only one I think that shared a story and said like, hey, go vote for me. And all of his buddies actually took him seriously. So we had about 1 million Instagram votes for, well, not really. We don't have that many followers, but we had about 1 billion Instagram votes for Harlan. My phone was buzzing. I finally had to turn notifications off for Instagram because his buddies were blowing up the post. So I guess he wins the fan vote for whatever that was for, offense, defense. I'm not sure. But anyway, I don't know who won that draft, but if you go listen to the episode, it's a lot of fun.
I just want to say my favorite thing that happened was the guy that I asked to like, hey, where'd I go wrong? Well, and he said that my QBs were bad, and I had Charlie Ward, and I was, oh, okay, so QB is where I went wrong. And then TJ had the grand idea of telling him that.
Well, I said Charlie Ward. Yeah, I said you got a problem with him having the greatest QB in FSU history, which I mean I think Davis is, but whatever. Like, right, like 6'1" half dozen other. And he was like, well, it's not Ward. It's just that he's got Xavier Lee on his roster.
Yeah, and TJ's like, oh, he just has him for trick plays. I was like,
no. So you have Charlie
Could you
run the offense on Saturdays, and then you have Xavier Lee to go to Potbellies with on Thursday night. You got the best of both worlds there.
Could you imagine the trick plays between Lee and Ward though? Like that would you could run some pretty nasty triple option stuff with there. Like
Lee had a cannon. Like it's a shame it never worked out. I remember.
It worked out in NCAA 07, bro. Like it worked for me.
Well, no, I just remember it was a terrible game for Florida State fans. But my freshman year, we played Clemson, and that's the year that the defense fell asleep and James Davis runs like 40 yards to the 1 yard line, and they scored like 10 seconds left. And Drew Weatherford was our starting quarterback. But then, we get the ball back on the kickoff, you see Xavier Lee just warming up because he's the only one who can potentially throw a football far enough that could have got to the end zone when they were going to try for that Hail Mary. But man, he will be the biggest what if for me in Florida State history because
didn't he beat Stephen in Alabama?
He beat Alabama, yeah. Him and Dakota Fagg had that huge, it was just a simple out route, but Lee found Fagg and he found the sideline and got all the way up there for the touchdown. I mean, I was at that game too. That was a blast. That's when I thought, oh, we're back. Took a few more years, but we did get back eventually.
Was Lindsay at that game? Were you guys together yet?
No, I had no idea who she was at that time. That was 2007. I met her in 2017. So
wow,
10 years of debauchery in between.
Much different, Richie. But yeah, those were a ton of fun. If you haven't, I mean, Trey makes the draft. So we all had a good time. I tried to keep the wheels on the track, but these guys and mostly Trey were just fantastic with the entire draft. So it was a ton of fun. All right, we're going to stir up some more controversy because we just can't stop with that side of things. I'll try not to bore you guys, but I'm going to go through a lot of stuff right now. We are going to, Richie, how do I pronounce this? I like what Lindsay's idea was the other day. We're going to go with yours. But if you guys are familiar with any kind of award show, they have to have a stupid name like Emmy, Tony. I mean, Tony's that's so bad. SBs,
Grammys,
the Dundies. This is
Dundies.
Basically the double fries, no salt Dundies that we're about to kind of have going on, but we have, and I'll let Richie announce the name here in just a minute, but we have some awards because it's our 1 year anniversary. We're going to have a show that pops up in a few days, probably on Tuesday, because that's the official 1 year anniversary. And we're going to, on that show, we're going to recall some of our favorite moments from the show, favorite moments from last year, and we are going to give out some awards on that episode. So we're going to go through in just a moment and kind of give you some nominees, talk about them. We're going to have a fan vote on Twitter that'll count for part of the voting. All the guys on the staff will get to vote as well. But anyway, that's our idea. That's what's coming up. Hopefully we don't offend people for not including every single FSU athlete and sport out there. We obviously had a limited amount of things that we could do, but we have some different nominees. You're all winners in our hearts. But Richie, tell the people about the name, what we're doing here.
Yeah, so obviously double fries, no slaw, DFNS. So the wife had an idea. Why not just call it the Duffins? So that's what we're going for here. It is, the best of the best from the last calendar year of sports for Florida State. So anyone, from fall of 2020 to the end of summer in 2021. So the entire sports calendar year. Just want to recognize all the great athletes and coaches that we have on this campus. We thought it'd be really fun. And, I think we had a really good time putting our nominations together, although it was very nerve-wracking because I know we're definitely going to leave out some players, some coaches, some moments. That's going to be a drastic oversight, but give us a little leeway. It's our first one. We just had the idea last week. So we know heading into next year, I'm going to be taking notes all season long for all sports. So I don't have to do the intensive research that we all had to do to try and get this list together. But I'm excited to see what the fans vote, see our omissions, because like we said, we're going to have some obvious glaring omissions. And I want to hear those and be like, oh my goodness, how did we forget about that? But it'll be a lot of fun. And we will, again, just recognize what a great athletics department we have. Florida State's not just a football school. They really are an everything school. And putting these lists together really helped solidify that, in my mind, at least.
Yeah. So we have 10 different categories. Again, if you're not listening to this on 2x speed, or at least a speed and a half, you may want to speed this up just a bit because it's going to be a lot of lists. We're going to talk about a couple of them as we go, but we'll run through them. Richie, if there's anybody or any nominee that you want to talk about, feel free to, but I'm obviously going to try and talk a little bit about each one of them quickly again. So we've got team of the year first up. Some of these are FSU sport related. Some of these are podcast related. Most of them are FSU sport related. So anyway, we'll go through them. Team of the year, we have both softball and soccer for making it to the national championship game. We've got men's golf, which made it to the national finals, and then the NCAAs, right? So it wasn't like the final round or anything, but made it to the nationals, finished top 8 there. And women's tennis, who made the Elite 8, finished number 7 in the country. Those are our team of the year nominees. We've got a male athlete of the year category: John Pox, Scotty Barnes, Matthew Nelson, Asante Samuel. A couple of first round picks in there. Guy that's on the pro tour, and then Asante Samuel drafted as well. Best football player for sure. Female athlete of the year: Beatrice Wallen, Catherine Sandercock, Nandini Das, and Jalen Howell. Coach of the year: Mark Krikorian, Lonnie Almeida, Trey Jones, and Jennifer Hyde. Game of the year: football, upsetting UNC. I know that one's going to get a ton of votes. Yeah. Women's hoops, upsetting Louisville, who was number 3 in the country at that moment. Absolutely fantastic game. Again, we've talked about that with everybody that's been on, but seeing them win with Michael Alford on the first time we had him on was super fun. Men's hoops against UF, I was up there at that one. That was a ton of fun.
7 straight.
7 in a row for Coach Ham over his son. Or sons, I guess. Mike's not been there the whole time, I don't think. Has he? Has Mike White been there 7 years?
Yeah. So that's when the streak started, was Mike White's first year.
Wow. And then beach volleyball over number 1 LSU on the road. That was in Baton Rouge. They pulled off that upset over number 1. We got play of the year, which is Kano's pick 6, Muffley's hurdle/tag, which went viral like crazy. Yeah. Kano's pick 6 was the one against UNC that put us up to start the.
I think Kano wins, but Muffley, man, that might be the play.
Yeah, I'm probably voting for Muffley there. So, Pac clinching his clinching putt at the Calusa Cup. Barnes's buzzer beater to beat IU. We have a category for podcast guest of the year. We try to keep these all FSU related. I know we've had guests that weren't FSU related that were a lot of fun, but this is the FSU kind of related stuff. So Mark Ziegler, Jeff Cameron, Michael Alford, Jennifer Hyde, and Lonnie Almeida. We know we had a lot more FSU coaches on that we could have included there. We included Coach Hyde and Coach Almeida just because they were both basically willing to keep coming back every single week that their team did something incredible. And so they were on over and over and over again. And in the most pressure-filled, the most intense moments, we appreciate Coach Hyde and Coach Almeida for coming on. So Ziegler, Jeff Cameron, Jeff Cameron was fantastic. I really have no idea where to vote because all 5 of them are fantastic. I may just not even tell you guys who I voted for, but Alford, Hyde, and Almeida for that one. Fan favorite play of the year, Jordan Harlan submitted this one. This was one of my favorite plays.
Phenomenal.
Of the year. Yeah, like this. I asked him about this. Okay, so Jordan Travis's dribble play touchdown against Louisville. Obviously, when that happened, it was like, oh, we're beating Louisville, and then things didn't really go our way. But I asked him about that at the ACC kickoff. I just said, like, hey, man, what were you thinking? Like, was that just so instinctive, or did you just say, let me try this? He's like, no, I definitely wasn't trying that because I could never do that again if I tried. And then I said, did Coach Ham reach out to you about possibly playing? And he laughed and said, no calls yet. But Jordan Travis's dribble play, touchdown against Louisville, where he bounced the ball up and ended up taking it to the end zone. Barnes's poster, that massive dunk on UF. Again, I was sitting right there in front of the basket.
There were 2 of them. So you take your pick if you want the one over Castleton or over Scotty Lewis. Because
I'll always take the Castleton just because he's like 7 foot. Like, that's just my.
Well, I like the Scotty Lewis one just because he gives us the on his head dancing while the ball's going down the other end of the court at that time. Man, what a great game.
No, that was ridiculous. Barnes' dunk. We've also got. I just lost my list. Oh, it's over here.
Liz Mason home run against LSU. Huge one. Love that one.
And then we had her on right after.
She was great. Yeah,
fantastic. And then Cabell and Nelson's home runs, power rush past Southern Miss in the regional. So last win of the year for FSU baseball. We've got performance of the year. Mudge's 5 for 5 in Game 1 of the College World Series. Men's golf absolutely dominating and lapping the field in the Tallahassee Regional. Track and field winning both the ACC men's and women's championships. This was a fun one. Baseball outscoring our rivals 44-4 in 1 week. That was wins over Florida and 3 wins on the road at Miami. And then this is my favorite. This is my favorite of all 10 of them. This is the event that, and I need some help from the folks at FSU. Coach Hyde, Steven over at women's basketball, Steve with golf as well, and then Coach Almeida on this one with or Brad over there with softball. This is the event that Richie is most likely to lose in. Like, we know he'd lose in all 5, but like, which one does he have the absolute least chance of winning? A best of 5 free throw contest versus Bianca Jackson from FSU women's basketball. Closest to the hole versus John Pock. Could he return a serve from Vic Allen or get on base in an at-bat versus Catherine Sandercock? So there's our 10 categories. Richie, let's start with that first one. We're not going to go through all of them. Thank you guys, everybody, for listening through all of them. We'll recap the winners on Tuesday for our 1-year anniversary show. Richie, which of those are you the least confident that you can win? Like, which one are you sure that you would lose in? Like, you have no shot to do it.
I think an at-bat versus Sandercock is the least likely for me to have any success at all. I'll probably strike out standing as far back in the batter's box as possible because I'm afraid of getting hit with the ball. But like you said, it's unlikely I could even really come close in any of these. But man, returning a serve from Vic Allen, like we saw her serve, like it's there's no way, right? The free throws maybe in closest to the hole. I just have to hope, maybe I coughed during Pac's backswing and he, shanks one. But yeah, realistically, I'm not winning any of these. But I think the at bat versus Sandercock would be the toughest by far.
I think the free throws are probably where you'd have the best chance, and that's nothing against Bianco, who shot 83.5% from the free throw line this year. It's just if you hit all 5, right? Like you that's more you against you as opposed to you against her. Like it's not like,
and especially if I have time to practice, right? If I'm practice, if I can shoot, 100 free throws a day.
No, all of these would be cold, no warm up, no practice free throw shot, no practice swing. You just get out there and go.
I can't hit the range before taking on Pac.
No,
and for the record, I do want to say on this program, John Pac agreed. I get 2 shots off the tee. He gets 1. So that may help me a little bit, but still probably not.
Yeah, I've still got him. But
if anybody's betting on me for any of these, you just love throwing away money at that point.
Vegas would love you if you are. Yeah, the free throws are where I think you have a chance. So best 10 of 10 free throws, I would take, I'd say there's no way you're going to hit them cold. But maybe you hit 5 of 5 and she misses 1, right? That's your one shot.
That's
she probably hope. Could you imagine she nail all 5?
She would,
and then you go up and miss your first one and just walk off. All right, why even do the last?
Why am I here right now?
I don't know how we sacrifice Richie for this for these competitions, but I'm glad that it's not me. I'm glad that it's Richie every time. But yeah, no, we'll see how many of those we can get done Labor Day weekend. You're lucky the football team is playing that weekend, so they don't have to do an Oklahoma drill. What could you do in football? Is there anything in football you think you could do? Do you think are you fast? Could you beat our slowest offensive lineman in a race?
No, I was a wide receiver in high school and ran a 4.8 40. So yeah,
you could probably. I mean, what are you running 5.2 now? You probably beat some of the offensive linemen.
I'd be lucky to be under 6 right now. I haven't. I don't know the last time I sprinted for anything.
Let's find the most speed challenged. Gosh, that's a politically correct way to say it. Most speed challenged athlete at Florida State, and see if you could beat them in a foot race.
Oh man, unlikely because they're still a college athlete, and I'm a 33-year-old guy that doesn't really exercise as much as I should.
So we're excited for that. List the Duffins, right? The DFNSs, our awards that we'll release on Tuesday. We'll have. Looks like I've got Brian 10 graphics to make right here, but we'll put out a fan vote tomorrow morning attached to this pod so that you guys can go in and vote for all the different athletes and sports and everything else. So enjoy that. Hopefully we don't get you guys too upset over it. I got a shout out here, Richie. Do you have any I think that's all we have. Do you have anything else before we go? Do you have any shout outs or anything like that? I've got a big one here that I want to make, but then other than that, I think I'm good on today's show.
Yeah, no, nothing for me. I know where you're going, and I definitely want to give that the full spotlight. Yeah.
So several of you guys interacted with and know who J-Mac is. He was part of FSU Twitter. Massive fan of FSU football, baseball, all really the athletics. He did a podcast called the Unconquered Era podcast. Some of the guys that even work with us have worked with him, roomed with him, hung out with him a ton, really good boys with him. I knew him, hadn't seen him in a few years, obviously with COVID going on, everything else like that. But we had hung out several times and gone out to eat and done different things. And so he passed away late last week, and or maybe just the week before. My days are all kind of getting messed up, but I think it was late last week, and obviously just a horrible. He was young, mid 30s, if I saw correctly. Really brutal to see that. A couple people online were talking about trying to get him a brick at Doak Campbell. The deadline for bricks this year has already passed to get it in, but the folks over at the Boosters were gracious enough to work with Madison Social, who really stepped up and did a great job raising money for not only that brick, but they well surpassed that and raised several $1,000s more than what was needed, and have been able to get that money or are getting that money to his family to help out. And so, we've seen this time and time again. Obviously, you hate when situations like this happen and things like this come up, but we have seen time and time again whether it be somebody passing or somebody needing something. FSU fans kind of stepping up to the plate and contributing, donating, getting funds where they need to go to help out people in need. And so they certainly did that in this situation. Massive shout out to FSU Twitter, if that is still a thing. Massive shout out to Madison Social for their help with this. Massive shout out to everybody who contributed, donated, whether it was the smallest donation possible or you gave tons and tons of money because you have it. I mean, every little bit helps. And so glad that they're going to get that brick in before the game. Going to go obviously over and see that when we get to Doak on Friday. But man, just a terrible situation, an incredibly sad situation. But pretty neat to see how people responded and stepped up to the plate. I'm kind of rambling now because it's a loss for words because it's even hard to kind of talk about it. But Richie, I'll shut up and let you give some thoughts.
Yeah, so I did not know him. I was familiar with him on Twitter and interacted a bit here and there. I think what was the coolest thing for me was as Florida State, our timeline is so wild sometimes. It's just so divided and people getting into stepping outside of sports, talking about a bunch of random things. But it reminded me of when the Bobby news came out. My entire timeline was just stories of J-Mac and the interactions and influences he had. One of my favorite ones, someone posted that they, were offering free tickets to a game, and he had reached out and said, "Hey, I've been mentoring this, young man, and I'd love to take him to his first game in Doak." And she shared the picture of J-Mac and the kid he was mentoring in Doak. Just so many good stories from people. A bunch of people I know personally and through Twitter, just supporting him and telling great stories about him. He was just a great human being, and I feel comfortable saying that without ever meeting him because of how many people that I know or I've interacted with that had such great stories to say about him, about how he was just a kind person who just loved Florida State. And shout out to Matt and the team at Madison Social and for the table for helping out with this. Our condolences with his family, his loved ones. Like you said, we've had people on our team on Double Fries who knew him very well, and it's just a terrible thing to see so young as well. It makes you stop and think, but again, just seeing the support and love for him from the Florida State Twitter community, it only makes me wonder more, like what impact did he have on his real life community and everything he did, because I have no doubt it was positive, and it sucks. It's just a reminder that life is precious, and, hug your loved ones, tell them you love them, because you never know when any of our days will come.
Yeah, no, it's surreal. When you see, people that are around your age, right? Like I'm 31, I know you're a couple years older than me, but when you see people around your age, start to go, it's surreal, right? Like, because when you're a kid, right? Like only old people die, right? Like even if they were middle-aged, 30, 40, like that's old, right? Like when you're 3 or 4, right? But it's surreal to see people that you've hung out with and interacted with and grabbed beers with and eaten wings and watched FSU and everything else. Like I've been to baseball games with him. I've been to basketball games with him. I've been to football games, tailgated with him. And we never went to a football game together, but we tailgated several times. And so, yeah, just brutal. Obviously condolences to his family and friends, because that's not great news at all, but a good situation kind of came out of it. On a little bit lighter note, which, basically anything, right? We have been retweeting and sharing some stuff from Art Nikki. If you're watching my Art Nikki, Art by Nikki, if you're watching the screen, if you're listening to this, you won't be able to see it, but she put together this watercolor drawing. Hey, shout out to Brian who redesigned our logo. Just kind of cleaned it up a little bit. Looks a little neater, looks a little nicer. Harlan's been bugging me for weeks for a new hat. I've been kind of avoiding it because I'm just going to get him that as a wedding present in a couple months. But anyway, Art by Nikki, she designed it, or she didn't design this, but she drew this for us. I've got a print here that I'm going to give away on our Instagram. So go check out our Instagram, Double Fries Pod. Follow us on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, all the places, all the social media spots that you can. Double Fries Pod. We'll do that giveaway on Instagram maybe this week. I'm not quite sure. I don't know if you guys would even care to have that or not, but it's cool, and she did it, so it does look pretty neat.
The only thing I took from that is I'm still waiting on my invite to the wedding, Harlan. So if you want to have a job here, like, come on now.
Dude, what's up with that? Like, I didn't get one either. Like I said, this guy all these free hats and all this merch, and I was thinking of this, bro. I'm gonna buy him all kind of bourbon in Tallahassee and nothing. So, I saw a lot of people say this and or talk about this, and I hate to be like so sappy and so emotional, but I'll play "You Should Be Here," for J Mac, and we'll get out of here. I don't even know if I don't think he was that big of a country music fan, but I'll play it anyway, and he'll have to listen to it from up on high. So we will see you guys on Tuesday, I believe, unless something crazy happens, for a pop-up 1-year anniversary episode. Thanks for bearing with us and getting through the rough ending of this episode. But Harlan, play us out and we'll get out of here.